The Kenya Revenue Authority has officially rolled out a new tax amnesty program under the Finance Act 2026, and this is great news for many taxpayers. So if you have unpaid tax penalties, interest, fines, or even outstanding principal tax, you could qualify for a 100% waiver, but only if you meet the conditions set by KRA. So what is the new tax amnesty? The tax amnesty program officially started on 1st July 2026 after the coming into effect of the Finance Act 2026. So the program will remain open until 31st December 2026. So the purpose of this program is to help the taxpayers clear their old tax obligations without being burdened by huge accumulated penalties, interest, or fines. So many taxpayers have wanted to become tax compliant, but they have been discouraged because the penalties and interest have grown over the years. So this tax amnesty gives eligible taxpayers an opportunity to clean up their tax records at a much lower cost. So one of the biggest questions that I get is, what does 100% waiver mean, or what is really tax amnesty? So the simple answer is, Kenya Revenue Authority is forgiving you 100% of penalties, 100% of interests, and 100% of any eligible fines. So that relates to qualifying tax debts. However, there is one important thing that you need to understand. The waiver does not mean that the principal tax has been cancelled. If you actually owe tax, that tax still has to be paid. What Kenya Revenue Authority is forgiving are just the additional charges that accumulated because of tax remaining unpaid. Which tax debts are covered? So the program applies to all tax liabilities that accrued up to 31st December 2025. This means if your tax debt relates to this period up to December 2025, you may or you will qualify for the tax amnesty. If your tax obligation arose or your tax debt arose after this date, that is actually in 2026, it is not covered under this program. So what if you still owe principal tax? So this is where many taxpayers get confused. Suppose your iTax ledger shows that you have principal tax, interest, and penalties. Can you still qualify? Yes. KRA says that you can qualify or you can still enjoy the waiver if you settle the outstanding principal tax during the tax amnesty. For example, imagine you owe KRA principal tax of 100,000. Then you get accumulated interest of 40,000, and then you have a penalty of 20,000. So if you pay the 100,000 principal tax is the actual tax that was due within the amnesty period, that is before 31st December 2026. The 60,000, which is the interest and penalty, they will be waived or they will be forgiven provided you meet the program requirements. So in simple terms, pay the tax you owe or the tax you actually owe, then KRA forgives the extra charges. So someone may ask, what if you don't or you cannot pay everything immediately? So some taxpayers may not have enough money to clear the principal tax at once. Maybe it is so huge. So Kenya Revenue Authority has provided another option. You can apply for a structured payment plan, that is the installment payment plan, through the iTax. However, there is an important condition. The principal tax must still be fully paid by 31st December 2026. I've done a different video, a separate video. I will link the video in the comments below on how you can apply for the installment payment plan. It gives you 6 months to pay your debt. If you fail to complete your payment within the amnesty period, you will lose the benefit of getting the waiver. So another question, is the 2,000 or 20,000 late filing penalty included? Because for companies, they get 20,000 penalty. For individuals, they get 2,000 penalty. So this is Probably one of the most common questions, and the answer is yes. Suppose you only have 2,000 or 20,000 late filing penalty because you filed your returns after the deadline. If you have already submitted all your outstanding tax returns up to date and you do not owe any principal tax, then you qualify for this tax amnesty. Supposing you have filed up to date, up to 2025, but you have accumulated the penalties, they will be forgiven. According to KRA, this waiver will be processed automatically. You don't have to do anything. They will just automatically check your records and find that you are up to date with your tax returns. Then they will forgive you the penalties. So there is no need to submit a separate waiver application. However, it is advisable to keep checking your iTax ledger. I'll show you how you can check your iTax ledger on a different video so that you can confirm that your penalty has been removed by the end of December 2026. So if you find that your penalty is not yet removed, you need to visit the KRA center so that they can waiver you the penalties. So who does not need to apply or to do any action, to take any action? So for some taxpayers, they may not need to do anything. If by 31st December 2025, you had already cleared or you had already paid all your principal tax, but your ledger still shows the penalties or interests, KRA says that those waivers will be processed automatically. The same case with the penalties for late filing. If you had the same principal tax and then you got penalties and interest, but you paid your principal tax on before 31st December, or every tax that was owed by 31st December 2025, then you need to relax. KRA will do the necessary arrangement to clear your debt, but you still have to check your ledger to make sure that those debts are cleared. So what if you have a tax dispute? Some taxpayers are currently involved in a tax dispute with KRA. So instead of waiting for court cases to take years, KRA has introduced or indicated that taxpayers can use the Alternative Dispute Resolution Framework, commonly known as ADR. So once the principal tax issued is resolved through the ADR, and the conditions of the amnesty are met, so the taxpayer can still benefit from the waiver. Now let's get to the process of applying for your tax amnesty if you have principal tax that is unpaid. You log in into your iTax portal and then you go to Payments and click Payment Registration. Then click Next. Then you get these details. Under Tax head, you select the tax you owe. For example, you have income tax, VAT, or any other tax type that is listed. In my case, I will select income tax. Next, go to tax subhead and choose the option that applies to you. For individuals, this is usually income tax resident individual, which applies to personal tax obligations. So in my case, in this scenario, I will select income tax rent income, the MRI, because that is what I'm dealing with. Then under the payment type, you select self-assessment. Then you'll see your tax liability details showing each year or the month with unpaid tax. In this case, we have MRI unpaid amounts or the monthly rental income. So to pay the principal tax only, click on May, for example. In our case, May is not paid. So you will go to the amount section, enter the exact principal tax amount. In this case, you can see it's 33.75. We assume the principal, we assume the interest, we assume the penalties, and we get to the principal amount. And then click Add to include the payment. Next, move to April and do the same process. Then select the month, enter only the principal amount to be paid, and then click Add. Repeat the same process for March and any other applicable months until you have included all the periods you want to pay. So this is just an example for me. So basically, maybe for you it is previous months, and please note this should be years up to 2025 December. So if you pay for this year, they do not apply. So in my case, I've selected that for an explanation or to show you the process, but this is 2026, so make sure you are paying for 2025. That is the only year from 2025 December to the other years. That's the only period that qualifies for the waiver. You will then see all the payments listed together with the total amount of tax displayed. Under the payment mode, you select other payment modes. Once everything is correct, you click Submit. Once the submission is done, you download the payment slip generated by the system. Finally, review the payment details on the slip. There is M-Pesa details, there is bank details to confirm that everything is accurate before proceeding with the payment. And then you can make your payments at the comfort of your house. After payment, you receive an SMS from KRA confirming that the payment has been received. So the payment is also reflected immediately in your iTax ledger. If you go back to the same process of payment registration, you should no longer see the months or the years you have already paid under the tax liability section. This confirms that the payment has been successful and it has been updated in the system. I will also do a separate video showing you how to check if your payment has been received and how to confirm whether penalties, interest, and fines have been waived directly from your iTax portal. So in conclusion, this tax amnesty program presents a valuable opportunity to us as taxpayers so that we can keep our tax affairs in order while still saving money that would otherwise been spent on penalties, interest, and fines. So if you have not checked your iTax ledger recently, now is a good time to log in and understand your tax position. If you're not sure on your tax position and you don't know how to check, you can actually get in touch with me or any tax consultant and we shall help you where applicable. Remember, the program closes on 31st December 2026. If you found this explanation helpful, kindly like this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and share it with someone who might benefit from this information. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.